of, and we're really glad that you've joined us. If you can, just take a moment and use the chat box to tell us your name and where you're working and coming from. We would like to know and to be able to say hello to you. And as people are doing that, let me take a moment to introduce my colleague and friend and co-host of Wednesday webinars, Krissa De La Cruz, who's the Director of Business Development at SGR. Welcome, Krissa.
Thanks, Mike. And I'm really excited to introduce some of our special guests because they are also some of our other coworkers and teammates and friends. We have Kristen Dorman, who is the Director of AFI, which is the Alliance for Innovation, and Heather Benoit, who is in charge of our Strategic Foresight business line. She is a futurist and one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. I love to tell people that every time I have a conversation with Heather, my brain stretches a little. I don't know if it actually grows, but I might be at capacity already, but she stretches my brain every time. She's brilliant. And so really excited to have them join us today.
You bet. We always love to hang out with Heather just because we get a little bit smarter by association, for sure. And welcome to all of our guests that are with us. I see a number of people that have joined from various parts of the country, some of you who were with us at TLG, and we're just hoping that we can capture some of the highlights that we experienced there and share with people who weren't able to go. So Krissa, let me kick it off to you first. And we were working and coming in and out of sessions, so you weren't able to attend to everything. But talk to us a little bit about what were some of the highlights for you at TLG?
So thanks for asking, because I had a really fun time networking, getting to meet some new friends, getting to connect with some friends I hadn't seen in a while from across the country. But I will say one of the sessions that really stood out to me was the session that Williamsburg did. It was on community engagement, and they brought in demonstration of some of the tools they've used to engage with their community, and blew my mind. Really impressive stuff. I mean, they have really gone above and beyond to bring that sense of engagement to the community where they are. So instead of kind of the more typical surveys and things like that, they're collecting data in like interactive games, digital displays with Q&A type things, a rocket,
Yeah.
kind of brilliant. So I took a little video of it. I'm going to drop it in the chat. If for those who weren't able to see it, if you were at TLG and just weren't able to make that session, or if you weren't able to attend, you can watch this. I wasn't able to. Well, it's posted that in a weird way. That's okay. Yeah. But that way you can get a little recap anyway. And then aside from that, I think just the vibe, the energy from all of the attendees at TLG, it's like electric. It makes you excited to learn. Everyone's eager to learn more about innovation and share with each other and learn from each other. And even the happy hour events, the after hours events were super fun. We had some awesome sponsors, Archistar and Invisio, that provided happy hours for the attendees, and those were well attended and great networking opportunities as well.
For sure. Go back to Williamsburg. I didn't get to go to that session because I had to be somewhere else. But oh my goodness, just beforehand, walking around and seeing it, it made me excited for it. And we're actually going to be talking with them about how they put that on and how we can enable other cities and organizations to duplicate that, because I think it has some great potential, and that was a dynamic moment for sure. I will share for me, one of the neatest things you mentioned Invisio, and Liz Stewart did a presentation at the Vision Council on Monday morning from Invisio, and it was phenomenal when she talked about trust and what are the real trust factors that make a difference in how people want to follow you. So that was so good. I talked to her about doing a future webinar with us just on that topic. And I'm excited we're going to be doing that because, trust is it's the currency of getting work done. And if we lose it, we have to work really hard to regain it. And if we have it, we can do so many more things and do them easier without it or with it. So that was just a phenomenal presentation, I thought. And of course, that followed our own Heather Benoit's amazing presentation as well on polarization and the future of that, what that's doing to us. But Heather, you also did some other things on at the work at the conference. You were busy, I know, and you didn't get to go to a lot of sessions because you were kind of tied up with your other things. So talk to us a little bit about, for those that weren't there, what are some of the things you just hope people were taking away from your sessions at TLG?
Yeah, great question. I think with the session on polarization and trust that you just mentioned, it's really understanding that we are coming into facing some really new and really distinct emerging trends in how people interact with each other, how we communicate, and how we have very different sources of information, and our interpretations of reality are so different. So how do we solve problems together? And how do we get to a point where we can just frame and understand the problem together from the same perspective, and build that? And so understanding, especially as we go into what might be a little bit more of a polarizing year with an election cycle, how do we get ahead of that? And how do we prepare to have really fruitful, constructive conversations with our communities and with the people in them, and make sure that we're creating space for those conversations to happen and be productive. And then we also did a chat about innovation in local government. And that was really, I think, a great space to kind of talk about the history of local government and their role in being innovative, and how different public sector innovation is from private sector innovation. And really, as we contend with some of the emerging issues and changes that we're seeing kind of propagate through society and through technology, really that there is this very strong role for local governments to be these drivers of innovation, and really a need for that. So I hope that was the big takeaway from the day.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And speaking of innovation, I want to throw this over to you, Cato. We had a great report. I know you weren't there, but we had a great report from the AI task force. And I thought that was one of the more, for me, some exciting things. Uh, from your perspective, where is generative AI going? What was one of your takeaways, I guess, from what you know of the work of that task force?
Yeah, great question. That was one of our more popular sessions from the survey results. And I think it's just that people really enjoy learning from their peers on what their peers are doing and thinking. I think it's really interesting to see what the group was working on in terms of the ethics behind using generative AI in their organizations. And I know that even on the task force, there were differing opinions on when it should be used, how it should be used. I think it was really good for that group to get to work together on some of those things, because there are differing opinions across organizations and across the country on how generative AI should be used in organizations. So we're really excited to launch the work that group put together. They've put together some awesome training materials so that organizations can train their employees on how to responsibly use generative AI in their work, along with some guidelines on do's and don'ts as far as the ethics go. So we'll be launching those materials in a couple of weeks here to our members and to the broader local government community. So really excited about the work that they were doing. And I think that generative AI is just at the beginning, and I don't see it stopping.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited to see the results of that work myself. And so I want to tell you a little bit about a couple of things that I thought were really great, but also if you were at TLG and you are on the webinar, if you'll use the chat box, we'd love to hear some of your comments about some of your highlights from it as well. So while I'm rambling away, if you'll use the chat box, then we'll make sure we reference as many of those as we can too. I mentioned the Vision Council session, which was for Monday morning. It was for all managers and assistant city and deputy managers that are AFI members. and we had great presentation from Heather, great presentation from Liz, as I mentioned, but also some of the comments that were made really stuck with me. One of them from Jim Bennett, who is a city manager in Maine, and former ICMA president. He made the comment that we're at a time now where the tools that it takes to be successful are not tools that managers have had in the past, and that we're having to learn to use new tools in order to be successful for a new reality. I thought that was a brilliant observation. And I think that's, again, goes back to what we're trying to do and help equip local government leaders to have the kind of tools that they need to be successful in the future. Another comment made during the Vision Council meeting that for me was really touching was one manager, as we were talking about polarization, said, I just have to say, I have felt so alone in battling this. And if you've sat in that chair as a city manager, you have sat in maybe the loneliest chair there is, because you feel tension from every side and your staff. And what this manager said was, coming today has given me new courage because I realize I'm not alone. We're all in this together. And boy, you couldn't ask for a better, expression of what we would like AFI to accomplish in the lives of our member organizations. And that's a sense of togetherness. So that was really cool. Another one that for me was really awesome was the presentation from the city of Fort Collins. And Tyler and Karen talked about a drive or initiative they're doing for rezoning in Fort Collins. And that what was awesome about it was their just great transparency of what it takes to lead, even when things don't go right. And the first couple of efforts for this process were voted down and weren't successful. And to me, it was an incredible learning experience to listen to Tyler and Karen talk about that so vulnerably and so honestly and openly. And I just got to say, sometimes I have some facilitators that they will say to me, local government leaders have become your heroes. Like, well, they have. And this was a little bit of why. There was no, ranting and raving by the staff. There was no name calling, no woe is me. It was just, okay, this didn't work. We maybe are learning some lessons from it, and how can we make it work better? And we didn't get everything we wanted, but we did make progress in what we think is the right direction. And I was telling some people on our staff, it's the most local government thing ever, right? Because that's why you that work in that sector really inspire me, because you embody the essence of great leadership, not making it about you, and not collapsing when you have adversity, but really demonstrating resilience. And that was great. I don't know how things are going to work out in Fort Collins. I have a feeling they're going to work out pretty good because you've got great leadership there. So that was one for me. Krista, what are we seeing from chat box of what the people were saying they really liked?
We've had a few comments about City of Fort Worth session about budget and performance, and I heard that on site from some people as well. That was very fascinating and interesting to hear about. So I think that's been we have a lot of introductions. I know we have some, here's another one. The session on opioids, talking about the Wake Up Carolina program and the work to combat the challenges in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. That huge, relevant session as well.
Yeah, I hope that's one. I mean, they were all great, but I hope that's one we can capture some more material from, because we've talked about, even on Wednesday webinars, the struggle with opioids, and to see how they are responding to it, I think can be an example for a lot of our other cities.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Just to follow up on the comments about Fort Worth Lab, I think one of the really awesome things to see at this TLG and past ones is the purposefulness in which communities and organizations are using their innovation efforts and transformation efforts, with Fort Worth creating their lab, with Olathe reorganizing their organization around a future strategic plan and creating their teams, with Grand Rapids and their innovation and equity teams. It's just really neat to see how purposeful people are being and making sure that these initiatives come to life in their organizations.
Boy, that's
I
exactly
love that.
right. And I really want to give some shout out, as you just mentioned, Olathe, to our friends there. As Nolan Sunderman gave the presentation on strategic planning, kind of from A to Z in that organization. And it was phenomenal in every way, even from, as you mentioned, reorganizing the staff around their strategic plan and getting so many people that work for them involved in, I'm not, this isn't the right term, but essentially ad hoc teams to drive those initiatives and the things that they've done in terms of engaging their community with it, and just having a long walk in the same direction. And Michael Wilkes and that team have done a great job, and that was really neat to hear. And Nolan did a great job providing the presentation too. Chris, any others that we want to mention?
So excuse me, Clay mentioned something new from the city of Pecos, Texas, super tool for robotic process automation to save time and increase accuracy with super macros. Really practical. That's
Yeah, I didn't
over
get
my
to be in
head a
that
little.
session, but I talked to the city manager that's doing it. And of course, we all know West Texas is best Texas. And that was just one more proof of it. So great job, City of Pecos. Okay, I want to throw it a little bit over to Kristen Dorman, who is National Members Director for AFI, because some of you may not be a part of AFI, or you may be a part of AFI and not even realize all the benefits. So, Kristen, if you will, as you're sharing your screen there, talk us through what is Alliance for Innovation and how do people get involved in it?
Yeah, absolutely. TLG is a lot of our members' favorite benefit, and for good reason. There's a lot of energy and excitement around learning about really innovative programs and practices that people are implementing. So we've really tried to focus our membership program on how can we create something that keeps that energy alive all year round, where you can be inspired from your peers, not just at our annual conference, but throughout the year through our membership program. So I'm just going to run through really quickly what our program for 2024 looks like and the things that we're focusing on. So just a quick program overview. I was telling my colleagues before we started this, what is the major goal of AFI? And, in the past, AFI really brought and nurtured innovation in the local government space, and I think did a really great job at that. As we can see from these conferences, people are being purposeful about innovation efforts now. And so really what our future goal is how can we bring foresight, this new kind of practice and buzzword, to local government to really help communities and organizations be better prepared for the uncertain future that we face. So these are kind of the overarching themes of our membership program. We have anticipatory leadership, and this is really about building organizational cultures that are dedicated to being prepared for the future and anticipating that and building that culture throughout the whole organization, not at just the very top. Second, we have future readiness, and this is where our team of futurists are creating research and content to help our members be better prepared for what's coming. And lastly, that inspired innovation piece, which is really what TLG embodies, is being inspired by our peers, learning about innovative projects and programs, and kind of being the organizations that are on the leading edge to inspire other local governments around the country. So that's just a quick overview. And then I'll kind of go through what some of the benefits that we provide under each of these tiers are, just in case you don't know about them, or if you are a member and just want to learn a little bit more. So under this organizational culture piece, we're really trying to introduce what foresight is to our organizations. So we do that in a couple of different ways. We offer some virtual workshops to our members where they get some one-on-one time with one of our futurists on staff to really help solve some issues that you might be dealing with using some foresight tools. So those are really cool ways to get some people from your organization all working on a similar problem together at a dedicated time. We also have created some foresight training videos that you can utilize in your organization to help just introduce what foresight is to your staff, why it's important to think about change, how much the world has changed, and how it will continue to change, and how it's really important to be cognizant of that in their work. And then lastly, on this piece, we have developed a foresight certification to teach people the basics of foresight. So this is really for those people in your organization that want to be deeply involved in this work and want to work on a futures project for themselves to help them in their job. So with that, we give our members 2 registrations to that program each year. And then as far as the future readiness goes, so like I mentioned, this is really us trying to be out on, the mountain, looking out on what's coming for local government to help our members be more prepared. So we do our annual trends report, and this goes over all of the things that we see coming for local government over the next year and into the future. And it covers all sorts of topics, everything from public safety to public health to infrastructure to planning, just all of the things that we see coming so that you can be better prepared. And then we do also some trend briefs where we go into a little bit deeper detail on a trend for that month. So I know Heather, the one that she did, I think it was 2 months ago, was all about hacking the brain to solve crimes and using some technology to be able to solve crimes by hacking into people's brains, which is incredibly scary, but also something that police departments and organizations should be aware of. And lastly, like you saw at TLG from the AI task force, we intend to continue that task force model on other pressing issues and hot topics. So that task force created some guidelines, training materials, things like that. And we envision that to be the same type of deliverable for other hot topics. So because we're in an election year, and as Heather talked about a little bit, with extreme polarization that communities are experiencing, our next task force is on public discourse and polarization. And so hoping that that group can kind of come together and come up with some ideas on how we can find common ground in our communities and help build better ways for people to get along and be able to share information from the local government. So if you have anyone in your organizations that would be interested in being on that next task force, you can reach out to me after this and we will get them started. And then lastly, the inspired innovation, as I talked about, this is really, what you see at TLG with that energy and the inspiration to chat with and learn from others that are also passionate about similar work that you are. So we will be starting innovation coaching calls where we intend to tackle topics that you might be dealing with, like how to get buy-in from the top, or if you're an innovation team, how to get buy-in from the rest of the organization that might not understand the importance of your work. Topics like how IT does not equal innovation and how to get that across to others. Just some different topics that we will have a speaker and then open it up for members to be able to chat with each other and share some things that have worked for them. And then we are launching our innovation team peer-to-peer learning program next month. And we will have Johnson County, Kansas presenting their innovation team, how they got started, projects that they work on. And really the intention there is to connect innovation teams. We hear a lot from innovation teams that they want to know what other teams are working on, what their structure is like, where they're located in the organization, and how we can support them. So really, this is a chance for those people to get together and talk about those things and learn from each other on what's working for them, projects that they're working on, and ways that they're making an impact in their organizations. And then lastly, the TLG conference, as a member, you do get a discount to attend that. And we really think that that's the best way to make those connections in person that we try to then nurture throughout the year in different ways. But that is just a little bit of an overview on our program. And if you are a member and have more questions or want more detail or need help getting connected with these benefits, let me know. I'm more than happy to meet with you. And if you're not yet a member and are interested based on this, then also reach out to me and we'll get you connected.
All right. Thanks, Kristen. Talk to us about TLG next year. Where's it going to be?
Next year, TLG will be in Scottsdale, Arizona. So another warm place for April, and should be a great time, and highly encourage any of you on the call to submit your case studies to be presenters. That's really what makes TLG special, is not any of us standing up there talking at you, but really you getting to learn from people that are doing the work and have great examples to share for you to take back to your communities. So highly encourage you to submit your case study submissions when we get that link out, and hope to see you in Scottsdale.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Looking forward to being there. And I know, Heather, our trends report is coming out in just a couple of weeks or so. Can you give us any, description or like a teaser about, okay, what's something that's going to be in it that people are going to find really interesting?
Well, it'll be like last year's trend report, very comprehensive. We've got dozens and dozens of different trends in there, everything from the latest stuff happening in automation to more trends in housing, to community engagement. So there's a lot of different trends in there. Off the top of my mind, I can't think of anyone in particular, but there's just a really good meaty selection of things kind of across the board.
Okay, super. I know you wouldn't love me putting you on the spot there, but I'm excited to see the trends report, and I'm sure everybody else is too. And as Krista just mentioned, next week's webinar, really looking forward to Michaela Haw from the city of Argyle, or town of Argyle, Texas, talking about creative communication. And she is embodying that, living that out. And I think you're going to be really inspired and entertained by Michaela's presentation. So if you haven't already registered, take a moment and register for that webinar. Krista, anything else we want to touch on before we close this one out?
Just say thank you to the AFI members and the TLG attendees for making the speakers, the sponsors, making that a really fun and engaging event for everybody who attended. You know, it was fun. Even doing the speaker rehearsals was fun because the speakers were happy to be there and excited, had good attitudes, and came in with an eagerness to learn along with share their information. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us on this webinar. Thank you, Kristen and Heather, for joining Chris and I to talk about this. Thank you to Lisa Shook, who works behind the scenes to make these webinars possible, and for all of you that are in that local government space and you are doing the best you can every day to make a difference in people's lives and to innovate for the future. Thank you so much for what you do. We all benefit from it. Those of us, even that aren't residents in your community.
I think Mike may have gotten frozen, but oh, there you are, Mike. You're back.
Oh, well, I was just carrying on so much. So thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the webinar. Thank you for your service. We'll see you again down the road.
Thank you.